Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Glad that you could make it. So welcome to our town hall. This is an opportunity for us to gather and to talk and to share. I'm using my microphone tonight, not just because I want to amplify my wonderful voice. It's because we're streaming. We are recording and we are live, and there's actually some folks that couldn't make it here tonight physically, but they're able to watch live stream. And also, we're able to, because we're recording it, go back and look or share it with those that weren't able to be here tonight. So it's a way of just being able to share this information. So we're going to have a time of conversation, so we would encourage you, as I'm using a microphone, for you to use a microphone as well, to ask your questions or to share your feedback. Again, not just so everybody in the room can hear, but so people online and in the recording would be able to get a good crisp sound to this, okay? So just to give you a little sense of what we're doing tonight, we're gathering to talk around a couple opportunities that are before us as a church. This is a chance for us to share. There are no voting items tonight, so we're not voting on anything. Don't worry about that. I'm also not leaving, so don't worry about that, okay? Like, I don't know if everybody's worried that or hoping that. Who knows? I don't know, but I'm not leaving. You're stuck with me at least another year. So, but... Huh?
What are we singing?
Yeah, right. Where? There's so many people tonight. Where are the offering plates? We got to take in. I'm just kidding. Okay, so we'll have a chance to share, and I'm going to ask for Beth to come, and she's going to open us in a word of prayer. I'm going to talk through a couple things, and then it's time for us to share together as a church.
Will you pray with me? Loving God, we come into your presence humbled, joyful, expectant. We remember that you give us more than we could ever ask or imagine. We ask that you will guide and direct our footsteps, the administrative life of this church, our leaders, our church family, and this community, Lord. Your will be done. Tonight and always we humbly pray. Amen.
All right, thank you. So as we get started, can everyone see the screen? We're just going to post a couple things, so if you want to see the screen better, feel free to move over, whatever is good for you, okay? So just to review, our vision is to be a community sent for others. What does it mean to be sent for someone? Well, for me, it begins relationally. It changes and impacts every relationship that we have. It's a heart and a mindset that says, I will not seek my interest first. I will seek the interest of the other before mine. Philippians 2 talks about that. So it can be whether a husband and wife or spousal thing, partner thing, parent to a child, a coworker, a neighbor situation. It's a relational concept of who we are as people to be personally for someone else. It certainly also has a missional component too. So I am here for you, and if I am for you, then I am for what you are concerned about or what you would need. So just a little kind of overarching sense of what our big vision is to be sent for others. Our mission is to create communities where lives are transformed. It's just kind of the language that we adopted, that we kind of use in a local context. The mission of the United Methodist Church is to make disciples for the transformation of the world. So what we've just kind of done locally is just to say we want to focus on relationship, we want to focus on being sent for others, and we want to create communities where life transformation happens. We believe in the power of groups, of learning together. We think learning is best done in community. Life transformation is best done in community. That's why we impact and try and offer for everybody groups to be a part of, not only for the sake of discipleship, but for caregiving, for life, and all of these things. So I wanted to share with you a new opportunity that is before us that was presented to me. I shared with our leaders, and I get to share with you now. I want to talk to you real quick about the North Hunterdon United Methodist Church. The North Hunterdon United Methodist Church you may know by the name of the Norton Church, which is just not too far from here. Basically, they are going to ask us to merge with them. This is a merger opportunity for us. A little bit about the North Hunterdon United Methodist Church is they have a thrift store that is there, and they are committed to continuing the thrift store for their mission impact, even though their worship attendance has been declining over the past several years. They're not going to be sustainable as a worshiping congregation anymore, but they have invested and want to continue to invest in the communities of Hampton, Glen Gardner, Asbury, kind of in the northern Hunterdon area, if not reaching into Warren County a bit, the impact that they have in the thrift store. So basically, as we look at this, they would merge with us, and then they would close as a congregation, all right? So we'll make sure there's a picture of it, if you're not sure where it is. Here's just another couple shots of it as well, if you've ever had a chance to go kind of down that way. As you see, their thrift store is open on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So what we can say about their thrift store is that it is meeting a big need in their community. So even with some of the limited hours that they offer to the community, they are still having a great impact in their mission, and the difference is certainly being felt and being made. So as we, again, just a couple more pictures to show you of their thrift shop if you haven't had a chance to go in there. It is a big space, and it is filled with lots of things. So as you see, the entire sort of ground floor of the church has been designated store, as they call it. And here are just some other pictures of their facility. This is their sanctuary, just to give you a sense of that, the back view of it, I guess. And here's the pastor's view. Look at me using technology. Check me out, huh? So, okay, here's some more. Woo, it zooms in and out and everything. So again, it has in the upstairs a community space, Sunday school space, and you see like a little kitchen area there. That's kind of their social hall. So just a couple pictures to give you a sense of the North Hunterdon United Methodist Church. So you may be saying, all right, what's the deal? What is it meaning for us as a church? So it basically means this. It has a significant local missions impact where they are right now. Basically, if you're wondering about the cost of the merger, it is no cost to us. And certainly the joy of a merger is their congregation not being able to sustain, whether it be a programmatic ministry or what we would know as sort of a worshiping congregation. They can come and be a part of the life of Clinton, and we get to be blessed by their presence, and we will bless them by our presence in our community, and get to be able to share life with them. So it's a joy to be able to provide a space, provide a church home for some of these folks as well. And so that is a couple pieces of impact. Here's two more. Again, it would provide for us as well, because of the thrift store being a major mission area, it could be an area for us to continue to serve in mission. So we have some areas already that we are in mission at, but the North Hunterdon United Methodist Church could likely be a mission center for us, that the entire facility could be used not just for thrift store, but other areas of mission impact that maybe we are not able to provide fully here at 12 Halstead Street, or can kind of reach out or branch out to more into the area of North Hunterdon there. So, what now? There was one more thing I thought I wanted to say. Must not have been that important if I didn't put it on the slide. That's okay. A couple next steps. Well, one is we're going to listen, we're going to discuss, we're going to explore. You're going to share some feedback with us, and we will take that feedback and try and answer any questions that we're not able to answer tonight. But on April 23rd is when the proposed church conference would happen. That is where we gather as a church, and that is when we would vote to merge or not to merge. The North Hunterdon United Methodist Church is actually doing their town hall right now as well. So this is public information for them. It's public information for you as well tonight. And so they are also exploring this from their end, the idea of merger. So basically, it's before us as some of the things that the merger brings to us is, and I guess we didn't have it on the slides. One is the church facility itself. When you merge with another congregation, that facility becomes yours and you take care of it, and our trustees would be overseeing that as part of our administrative leadership. Our administrative board would empower the trustees as part of holding that property in trust through the annual conference to care for that facility and the needs that it would have. They have a parsonage that is currently being rented out. Our church year begins on July 1st. So the lease for that rental for the couple that is living in that parsonage ends in June. They kind of know with the way that the Methodist Church works, it's a yearly lease and it always ends in June in case there is a reappointment or a need of that parsonage. They have 2 cemeteries that would be part of the upkeep from the trustees, and they have some assets in terms of the financial assets in the merger would become the financial assets of Clinton. So in a merger, the North Hunterdon and United Methodist Church would close, and all the assets and the responsibilities would become ours at Clinton United Methodist Church. So all of this, if you vote on April 23rd to do so, will take place on July 1st when the new church year begins. Okay, so I shared enough. What are your questions? Yeah, and so let's pass some microphones around just so we can hear everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Vanna. And Vanna. Alex, go ahead.
I'm a financial guy, so my question is, how does taking on another property and 2 cemeteries not impact our budget?
That's a great question. How many others here were going to ask what's the financial impact of this? You got a lot of people to hire as part of your firm, Alex. They think just like you. No, that's a great question. So the thrift store, again, with the mission impact that they have, they are currently running to where they are able to sustain their current facility on its own with just the thrift store. So the upkeep of the cemeteries, all of the operations, and the heating, the electric, the lawn cutting, everything that goes into the operations of that congregation is sustained and cared for by the proceeds of the thrift store. So that's why it's no impact on our budget.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, Jill.
Do they have staff? And if they do, what roles are they?
The question was, do they have staff and what are their roles? I have to kind of double check with Pastor Amanda. I think they may have someone that the pastor is half-time, and the pastor was just appointed to serve a new congregation. It was announced this Sunday, yesterday. So Pastor Amanda will be moving to a new congregation, and the option that is before the North Hunterdon United Methodist Church right now is closure with merger with Clinton, or a closure and the sale of the assets or their facilities being sold going towards the Greater New Jersey Annual Conference. So they will at this point not be receiving another pastor. They do have a bookkeeper that they employ. Their bookkeeper is also our bookkeeper, Rose Leonard, who is fantastic. Rose is great. I don't know if you had a chance to meet Rose, but Rose is wonderful. And so she does their books for them. But that is pretty much, in terms of staff, what they would have. And the church is aware, and so even if they did have maybe like a part-time organist, they would be aware that the church would be closing as effective July 1st. Yes, in the back.
Are there any capital improvements anticipated for the other church? Is it intact, or are there needs in that area?
I am the least handy person in the room. So I'm going to kick that over. Dick Pete, can you answer that question for us? Right. Well, yeah, you got to try now. I just put you on the spot.
Obviously,
Go ahead, Dick.
no, there are no ongoing capital type projects currently that I'm aware of that they're undertaking. The trustees have looked at the facility. We will be charged with maintaining the facility. And at this stage, while we have some concerns, I mean, any property you have concerns over, there are resources to address them. And, you know, while there's not unanimity, there's consensus that we should continue to move on in the direction of merger.
The roof was specifically.
I'm sorry?
The roof.
Oh, the roof, I believe, is 5 years, 10 years old. It's relatively new. It's 5 years old. So the roof is in good shape. That's true. It's sided. It's not bare wood.
Better give her the mic.
The facilities in general are in very good shape.
Right. It's in good condition. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in good condition.
That's what I was going to ask.
The question was how many members there. I don't know the exact number on their roll. Probably on their roll, maybe 50 to 60-ish. But probably average worship attendance every week is within the area of 10 to 15. And if you remember, with the way that sometimes when we think of small churches, we say, why don't they just all get together, right? You know, all these small churches around the area, just put them all together and they'll make them one bigger church. And statistically, that just hasn't worked. So really, even the North Hunterdon Church was a merger of the Glen Gardner Church, the Hampton Church, and the Norton Church. And so 3 smaller congregations came together as one, but as research and kind of history tells us that whenever you do that, over a period of time, that does not show promise for growth. It kind of just continues in decline. So that is why they're not looking to merge with another congregation. They're looking to close and to come and merge with us.
So I have the mic, so let me just go first and I'll
Yes.
pass it along. I go to Norton Church all the time for their thrift shop. It's phenomenal. And but they also run other missions, I believe, or I don't know if they still do, but they used to be an AA in the evenings on the weekends. So some of the other missions, would they also be supported as well moving forward?
Yes, they would. Yeah, so they do host. I couldn't remember. I didn't get a full list of everything that they do, but they do have some other ministries and missions throughout the week that, as part of the transition time, we would look at how to continue with supporting those and or figuring out what would be the right path. Certainly, we want to continue to use their mission to its fullest capability.
My question was insurance and liability. If there are going to be all these other activities, does the thrift shop, the revenue from the thrift shop cover the insurance and liabilities if you're going to have people in there at other times?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
So just to be clear, if we decide not to move forward or they decide to not move forward, the church closes, the thrift store closes, it goes to the conference, they sell it off, and it's all that work is gone, correct?
Yes, basically yes. And so you can imagine why they have, from all of my knowledge and from conversation with our district superintendent, they want to partner, they want to merge because they don't want to see the mission end. That they can't, really continue as a worshiping congregation, but they've given so much of their lives in ministry into this mission impact that is making a difference every week, that they don't want to see that come to an end. So that's why I think they would be very favorable towards kind of partnering and merging with Clinton. Yeah, Alex and then Ed, did you have your hand up? Okay, go ahead, Alex, and then we'll go over to Ed.
Do any of the congregants sing? We need voices in our choir.
That's right. That is right, yeah. Well, yeah, Emily Colo, as you know, so is a wonderful member of our choir now who has come to us from the Allerton United Methodist Church. Yeah, Ed, go ahead.
Yeah. My question is, well, I have several. But number one, you alluded or said that there is a parsonage that is being rented and it terminates its lease in June or July. You also said that money from the thrift store, etc., the thrift store, so on, support the financial position of the church. Did that include the rent of the parsonage? And what is the intent of further leasing of the parsonage?
Yes.
That's just the beginning.
Okay, all right. So the parsonage rental is its own separate entity. So that is the income from the rental of the parsonage was not included in the operating income that supports the ministries and the missions of the church. That's its own separate banana, as we say. So you don't have to worry about that. Basically, we're not sure what to do with the parsonage, just because it comes to us as a body on what we would want to do. You could continue to rent it. You could use it in terms of ministry purposes for our church. You could sell the parsonage. Mm-hmm. You know, those assets become our assets. So it just basically, as you explore the merger and as you come together as part of the transition, we would have a little bit of time to not only inform those who are renting to either see, do they want to keep doing it, or do we want to use it for a different purpose, or do we want to sell it? Those would be sort of all things that would happen within the next couple months that, you know, we haven't really come to a decision on, but they're all options before us.
Okay. At the 23rd, the meeting of the 23rd, when we were to take a vote on all of this, will there be a full financial statement on profit, loss, et cetera, going forward, and how they handled that now, to be sure that we're not getting something that maybe is not sustainable?
I'm not sure exactly about the details of the information given at the church conference, but I looked and we shared the past couple of years of their financial reports with our finance as part of the discernment process before coming to the town hall. Like, we didn't want to bring it to the whole church body unless we talked with our trustees about the facility capabilities. We talked with our missions team about whether or not they could see this as a mission center, and we shared it with our finance team as well on whether or not they liked the numbers. John, did you want to speak to anything to that, or?
This is John.
The only other thing I might add is that hasn't been brought up yet is that we would also assume the $93,000+ that they currently have in savings, that becomes part of those assets. So when I looked at the whole situation, all the numbers with Michael and with the finance group, we were pretty comfortable that this is really a win-win situation for us.
Okay, good. Yeah, Terry, and we don't want to miss you, so just keep flagging us down. Keep waving your hand up real high if you can. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, I think it might help a little bit of a feeling. Their income in the thrift shop was a little over $40,000. Their operating expenses for the church were in the $20,000 range. So there's, you know, it's the thrift shop has been paying for the maintenance and utilities and everything of the church. So I think from that standpoint, it's not something like it's real close or they have to have the thrift shop. The other thing, John mentioned that there was a little over $90,000 in their trustees fund. We know that they have a 500-gallon buried oil tank right next to the church. We know that's one of the first things that we'll have to take out. But you know, we feel like that the money that they have is sufficient to more than take care of that.
If it isn't leaking, it's about 10 grand. If it is leaking, it could be crippling.
Yeah, we haven't been able to do that until after, after the meeting on the 23rd.
I promised Terry I wouldn't talk tonight.
Okay, let's do Sandy and then Bill. Okay, go ahead, Sandy. Thanks.
I said I promised Terry I wouldn't talk tonight, but there are just two things I wanted to ask about.
Yeah.
One thing is, once, say everything goes through, and that would be great and wonderful, will there be any restraints on the money that we have negotiated? Like, you know what happened to us before with the money that we had all put in, everything we went for, then it could only be spent for particular things. Will the conference put any restraint on what we can do with all the assets that we're going to acquire?
With the assets that you acquire, I do not believe that there are any restraints. I can double check the discipline on that, and our DS can speak more to that. Within our current situation, as in within, it would be the sale of any capital. The sale of any capital, land, or whatever, the restraints there are for it can only be used for other new capital projects.
So it could, once again, it could not be used for our driveway. It could not be used to make or would that be considered a new thing? And now we could use it.
That would only be if you sell something over there.
So if we sell something,
it doesn't. It doesn't apply to the current assets that they have in the bank right now. It would be if you wanted to sell the church building. Then that becomes a little bit restricted in terms of discipline for more capital use funding. And the reason you can understand that is churches started selling their parsonages because they were having trouble paying their operating bills. So they said, hey, we're having trouble paying our bills. Let's sell the house that we own. And now that pastor doesn't have a house and they don't have, and so the denomination restricted some of that so as to not have every pastor be homeless. They said, if you have any capital buildings, parsonages, land, anything like that, if you sell it, the proceeds from that are restricted. But current assets as it stands right now are not for us. Did I answer your question?
no, not really. I mean, I don't understand it because it's a greater level of detail. But I'm saying I would like a greater explanation on that. And I think if you were here before, and I'm for this.
Right.
Don't think I'm not for it. I am. But when I see a driveway the way we have, hopefully we're going to have more people.
Right.
We're going to use it more. Things are going to be great. But I don't want to see us having to go back to the congregation to ask for money for a driveway when we're sitting on a lot of money in the bank.
That's right. I understand that.
So I would like a greater explanation to that before we have the other meeting. And the other thing, and this is just Sandy Oliver's input.
No, to your mouth.
To my mouth? Okay. I thought my mouth. And my other thing is, having worked in the church myself and having a husband that's been involved and know a lot of other guys that have been involved, this is another thing. I told Terry walking in here tonight, there was one thing that really bothers me. I said, Terry, we're to the age now. We can't do what we used to do. You noticed I've already dropped out a lot more than Terry has as far as doing things. But we have some way got to get the younger people in this church more involved if there's going to be more work to do. I mean, Ed Davis can't do it all. Terry Oliver can't do it all. Not that there aren't many others. Those are the ones that I answer the phone to almost daily. That something needs to be done. And we've got to, when we take this on, we've got to realize, I know, I still believe in God, and I fell for God, everything they said the last time that we did some big things. But also I remember being preached to that God helps those who help themselves, and I believe that too. So I think when we're sitting here and we're thinking in this, it's not just a money thing. We've got to think, are we willing to tell those young people to get off their rear ends and get to work?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sorry, over to Bill, right? Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. First off, I'd like to thank Sandy for, I ditto everything she says, as being sitting on the trustees and knowing what needs to be done outside.
Speak up a little bit, Bill.
Yep. I don't want to be the one here with a needle in a room full of balloons, but I am very concerned over the merger. There's an oil tank that's buried in excess of 25 years old in limestone. If it's leaking, it could be in the water system, the wells. And that $93,000 that's in the budget is just the tip of the iceberg. It would be far more expensive than that if we have to start drilling wells for neighbors. The septic is non-existent. It has a cesspool. Parking is very limited, maybe 8 cars. I don't know how big the lot is where the church is sitting. Maybe a regular septic system could not be installed because of the limited space. There is a right-of-way on the parsonage. If anybody's ever lived on a right-of-way, I don't need to tell you some issues that could develop from that. I work in construction for 45 years. You cannot buy a house with an in-ground oil tank today. Nobody in their right mind would buy a house with an in-ground oil tank. You have to get special insurance to cover it. Very expensive. If we can work all these issues out, I'd be in favor of it. The bathrooms are very small. I think it would be a nice place for Family Promise, but there's no showers. The church is not handicap accessible. There is a chair rail for one person coming into the sanctuary that goes up maybe 7 or 8 steps, but to go from the sanctuary into all the other portions, you have to either go up or down 3 or 4 steps. So there are, I think there's a lot of benefits, but there are a lot of concerns that I think need to address before we sign on the dotted line. Now, I don't know if we can get an extension from June to go a little bit more and get that oil tank pulled out and make sure, or making contingent on getting a clean bill of health for the oil tank. But I just want to make everybody aware here that there are issues as well as assets.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing.
I'll leave it at go with that.
Yeah. And I'll just speak to, in terms of timeline, that we may not be able to get all of those answers questioned by April 23rd. And the reason it has to be sort of later April is that when we go to the Greater New Jersey Annual Conference in May, that is when officially sort of the church comes before the annual conference for the annual conference to vote upon their closure. And so the pathway leading forward for July 1 and beyond has to be decided before May 20th. So those are some of the dates that we're working with that our district superintendent kind of gave us. But so that's just why, in terms of, I don't know if we'll be able to get that by the end of the week kind of thing, but that's why in May it needs to be, Drew needs to know what to bring to the conference floor for them in May. And certainly with appointment season, as you understand, they're appointing pastors right now to churches, and so that needs to be done by July 1st as well. So based upon what their future is going to be and other things, they kind of have like a couple church-given deadlines that is just the basic timeline moving forward. So, but thank you for sharing. I can't speak for the annual conference, and I can't really give an answer on the nature of extensions given, because I'm not the boss. But yeah, that's all I know. I'm just working with the info that I have. Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, I don't want to sit in here and say we should have done it. We should have talked about it tonight.
Yeah, that's why we're talking, right? We want to hear your concerns. Yeah, I know Al. Sorry, Al was waiting. Then let's go Al, Lisa, then over to Ed. And sorry, be patient with us. We're trying to get everybody in. Go ahead, Al. Thanks.
I'm patient.
Thanks.
You spend 2.5 months in Florida, you can be patient. There's, I think that this idea is very consistent with what it is that we want to do in our church. And it sounds like a great opportunity. The business side of me comes from the same kind of place that Alex does. And I guess in my mind, Michael, maybe you can help me to draw the differences here. Is there a parallel between this situation and the situation we had not too long ago with the Allerton Church, or was that a completely different kind of situation? And one of the learning experiences that at least I had from the Allerton Church issue was that we spent the time and the money to have a professional inspector take a really good look at the structure and to make sure that there weren't some hidden problems that we weren't aware of. So maybe you can help me with all that.
So I guess your question of can we have a commercial inspector look at the facility for us? I think we probably could. I don't see why we couldn't. I can certainly check with the district superintendent about that. What are the differences between Allerton? Was that your question?
The process we went through with the Allerton Church.
Right.
I'm not sure that I understand what our responsibility was there, different and apart from the kind of responsibility we assume here. And maybe completely different.
Right. The process is essentially the same. We were with the Allerton United Methodist Church talking around merger in the same language of merger, closure and merger. But what we decided as a church was to do more of a not a merger. The closure of the Allerton Church was simply a closure with the assets going to the Greater New Jersey Annual Conference. So when their facility was sold, everything went to the conference. But what we did with the Allerton Church is, even though we weren't going to move forward with an official merger in terms of assets and property, we tried to talk with them and encourage them to become a part of the life of our church here, while we investigated some of the property situations. And like I said, we had the inspector, and just some of the needs, as we talked about a couple of years ago, were just the cost level was so great that on our end, the level of investment, it was up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, was just not something that we wanted to move forward with at that time. I think one of the differences here in this situation is the level of assets that we are investing into that property is none at this point. So they have some assets to be able to, what we think, manage or handle whatever problems may come, whether it be in the development of the facility or, like you said, in the remediation or the removal of the oil tank, that they have some assets available that we think, depending on how you feel, we can move forward with. So those are just a couple of the differences. Yeah.
My turn. Yeah.
So just a reminder to use the mic, because we have 20 people joining us on the stream. Hello. Hi. Are they chatting you up back there? A little bit. All right, throw out a question or concern from the people that are watching online.
Lisa?
I'm sorry, who we go? Lisa.
My turn.
Yes, Lisa, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I have two. One is that thrift store that is sustaining the church right now. Do we know how that is sustained? Is it local donations, kind of similar to the food pantry, the thrift store there?
Yeah, so people donate to the thrift store. Volunteers give their time to run it. And so everything that is sold goes towards, and there's more detail to that. They have a partnership. They used to have a partnership with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Now they have a partnership with another organization I can't remember the name of, that for the things that aren't sold, they can give and are paid by the pound. I mean, it's a very good system that they're running, and I can't give you every single detail about it, but they know what they're doing.
I could definitely see our church being a great asset for contributing to that. Right. Second question is, how about youth? Do they have a youth program or any kind of, do they have a youth presence?
I don't think so. I do know that, do you remember last year we shared a prayer request that there was a family that was in a car accident, and I think it was the mother that passed away that had 5 children. The grandmother is a member of that church. And those 5 children, I don't know if they go every week, but the grandmother, she's one of the core volunteers of that thrift store, is now helping to raise her 5 grandchildren. So we prayed for that local family a year plus ago when that happened. So there are some children, but I don't know about they really don't have a children's ministry or a youth ministry, but they're. Yeah. Ed, and then let's hit Carol right behind you, and then Bonnie.
Now, I'm not going to give up the mic to John this time.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, you said earlier that the Allerton Church capital, the building that they sold, goes to the conference, the Northern New Jersey Annual Conference. You do not own this building. Understand that. I mean, a lot of the questions that you're asking is about, what about us? You don't own it. If you can't keep it going, it goes to the conference. They're going to sell it. And those assets all go to them. Now, as far as the land money that I think Sandy was alluding to, that is capital. That has to be spent on capital projects that improve the existing structure. Okay, now I'm not the legal attorney on all this, but I used to go to conference, and this was a discussion at every conference when a local congregation was closing. So I would suggest, if you don't mind, that either Drew Dyson show up to the 23rd meeting, or someone who can answer all these financial type situations. And we're worried about things we don't need to really worry about.
Right.
It's either we merge or we don't merge. And if I'm allowed to say that, I don't mean to offend anyone, but if it's a pig in the poke, the conference gets the pig. Okay? You don't get it. They're going to be the ones to worry about it. And if you will, one last thing until I think of something else. But the graveyard was mentioned. That is under national care. The church does not own that any longer. That's a conference deal. Right, Beth? I think Beth was at that meeting.
They're working on that, yeah.
Yes, where there's a national association that's taking over all the cemeteries. So that won't be a liability.
Right. That's the hope. It's not official yet. It should be
not official
this May.
Okay.
It's coming to the conference floor on that.
The capital has to go to capital. If you want to improve the parking lot, add 14 spaces and you'll get it approved. If you can improve the parking lot.
Right. That's right. It's for new projects, any type of capital project that shows an improvement or a new concept or idea about it. But again, as the one who's given the charge of the order of the church, of this local church, I can say per discipline that the current assets of that church, there are no restrictions unless they have some designated funds, like we have designated funds, that we would honor as well. That would be part of the transition as well. But no restrictions related to their assets. In the same way that when those assets become ours, if we sell one of our properties, if we sell what is their property, which would become our property, a sale of a property has restrictions to it.
Absolutely.
And that's for capital
Guaranteed.
purposes. So that's basically the...
And you won't have much say.
Carol, right? And then Bonnie. Thanks, Ed.
Before I have my question, I have to tell you that family at that church, the Jenny Haver Foundation, money that went to the Polytech Foundation, one of the young girls in that family got a scholarship and a grant to go back to school after she graduated, and she will be graduating from cosmetology this year. So all what comes around goes around. Or goes around, comes around, or whatever it is.
Right, thank you.
What concerns me is the money from that thrift shop, which is a terrific place, keeps that church going based on volunteers. And we sometimes have our own problems here with volunteers, let alone what happens when all of a sudden they give us 15 members from their church and we have to find people to run that thrift store. How does that work? I mean, it's not a guarantee. And if you don't have that thing working, that's really covering the expenses of that church. The church offers great possibilities for Family Promise, etc. But it's that thrift store has to be thriving. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, so that's assuming that those who are currently volunteering there now will stop. That's what you're saying, that if it just drops.
No, we don't know. We don't know anything about it.
That's
Where
right.
they come from. If they only get 15 people for church, I'm sure it takes more than 15 people. I know how many people they need at the food pantry and the top of the barn and all these places.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we'll get to talk about as a church, about how we help equip and send disciples to serve in mission, not only in this location, but throughout our county. That's a great conversation. I'd love any input that you would have on that now, if you'd like to share, to help answer Carol's question, or we can kick that to another time. Greg, you want to jump in, and then we'll go to Bonnie?
Yeah, sorry, I'll be quick, but just on that point, I think that, if you think through it, from my perspective, I would just simply want to honor all the work that they've done over all these years and somehow, pay that forward, if you will. And that's just a wonderful feeling. And if we think about our mission, that's a conversation that we have way down the road about how do we, fill those spots and volunteer. But that should be something that just happens as we live into being sent for others more and more. And we see it here all the time. So, it's a great question that we definitely need to answer. But really, ultimately, the idea is to really honor what they're doing and really, put them up and just salute them for that great work that they've done in that community. Meeting that need is huge. So,
thanks. Yeah, Bonnie.
I can't address all the financial, the trustees, but I do know volunteering. And I know they do a wonderful job over there. We've taken a lot of things over there to the thrift shop, and it is more than what you show there. They have a store that's a clothing store, and there are dedicated workers. There's a handful of them. Mm-hmm. When we take things up there, they are overloaded with work to do. I have a concern and a question. Okay. My concern is that the folks that's there are overworked and maybe they're needing help. And I'm not sure if they're planning on expanding their facility. I know they said they're trying to decide what to do with the rest of the facility. If they decide to expand it and take the upstairs and make more of a thrift shop, they probably would need more help. And I can tell you, of the 30 plus years that I've been here, 37 years, whatever, I have seen the volunteering. We have a lot of people volunteering here. We have Norris Cap and the Family Promise and all that, but I've seen the physical activity volunteering severely declining. And like Sandy was saying, we don't have a lot of people. We have work party, maybe 12 people show up. So what concerns me is that the people that are looking for help there might be disillusioned with the fact that we have problems getting volunteers here. So I'm not sure if we can really say we're going to step up to the plate and help run this mission. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I agree. And they do a great job, and they do a great service. And whenever we've been there, we practically helped a neighbor clean out our house, took everything from our house up there. And they are hardworking people. So that's just my only concern. And the other question I have is, you think they're considering taking the upstairs and turning it into even a greater aspect of the thrift shop?
Yeah,
It would be a great opportunity, but that's my concern
Yeah,
about the
I think
volunteering.
The whole facility then would have a greater mission impact opportunity. We just haven't had a chance to talk with them to hear their story, it's really in some ways inspiring, as you said. We've heard the 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Well, in their congregation, they could teach us something. They got 15 people every Sunday, and they've got at least 6 people that are running the thrift store every week. I don't know, I'm not good at math, but that sounds more than 20% to me. They could teach us something. And so I wonder what, as part of this transition, we can learn from them. Because, part of our language, in the next couple months, if we decide to move forward with this, is the idea of there's no longer an us and them. It is all of us, right? So how can they inspire us to serve more in mission? What gifts will they bring? What gifts do we bring? We all bring a gift, right? So I can't speak for them, but I'm curious to ask them questions for sure. Yeah, Nick.
Yeah, just a couple observations with the financials. So based on everything that we've looked at so far, it seems to suggest that if everything goes according to plan, we keep the thrift store running, parsonage continues to be rented, everything's great. But everything is, at least in my estimation, still effectively great, even if that all goes south, right? If we have every reason to believe that they want to keep the thrift store open. So I don't think we want to be able to support this thrift store and add volunteers to that, but they've essentially indicated to us that they're going to continue doing that. So in theory, we don't need any volunteers, and the thrift store would still make $40,000 a year in spite of us. We want to grow it. We want to be a part of that. But I think that, in some respects, addresses the volunteer question. But even if everything went south, they have enough money in the bank now that, assuming we didn't spend it as soon as we got it, we could support the parsonage people moving out and the thrift store going under and the maintenance on the church. We could support that for 3 to 4 years if everything went sideways. The only exception might be the oil tank that has been brought up as a concern. A comment and maybe a question to others that know more than me about it. I don't see any reason why we need to address the oil tank immediately, right? We're acquiring the asset, we're not buying it. So we don't have any obligation, as I understand it, to go in and find out what's wrong with the oil tank. So we could kick the can down the road if we wanted to. Maybe someone can address that if that's not the case. That's how I understood it. But then secondly, I guess, could we just mitigate that by buying insurance on it? There's a cost with that, certainly, but if it's a $100,000 risk, I'm sure for a couple grand we could get insurance that would cover that if we really do need to do something about it. But
good. Okay, so let's go to Bob, and I see Ben, and then Bill, I see in the back. We'll get over there to you in a second.
I'd like to give you a perspective on that. Some years ago when I was president of the Bloomsbury School Board, we had an in-the-ground oil tank. We had $1 million policy on it. The insurance carrier told us they would no longer insure us. No leaks, just based on the age. We could not get insurance. So we decided, okay, we're going to pull the tank out. Thankfully, it wasn't leaking. The largest tank you can get without a special permit is a 500-gallon tank. In a large building, you go through 500 gallons of oil fairly quickly. So what we ended up doing was we ended up switching the gas. The point is, if there is a leak, if we buy it, it's our responsibility. If it's leaking now, it's the conference's responsibility. And again, as it was pointed out, it could be $100,000, $150,000. If it's been leaking a while in limestone, it can plume. It could be a disaster. But ultimately, we would be financially responsible for it. Would they? Well, yeah, but you know something? A lot of times what I've seen, we don't own the property, but offer you into paying for it. I think that's a point to be clarified. If there is a liability, who would be responsible? Because if not we're trying to pass the buck, there's more shared risk financially if the conference takes responsibility. The congregation takes responsibility for it. That could really be crippling. I think that's a good point, Corbin. But that should be addressed, I think, and clarified.
Right. Yeah. So our DS will be here on April 23rd. He is scheduled to come and to oversee our church conference, and I'm sure he can speak more to that. Or what we can try and do in the meantime is try and get some more information on some of the things that you're sharing so as to present on April 23rd. You shared this concern. This is what we can clarify to this point. Whatever we can't answer, Drew can answer for us that night, I would think. Yeah, the question was, can we talk to Drew about these things before April 23rd? Is that right? Can we talk to our district superintendent before?
Could you get the information about what it is that we were concerned with, and let him know that we're happy with it? But I don't think it's fair to come to that meeting and have him not know, and then we got to go back and we say we're out of time.
Yeah, he's aware of all of. Because our trustees have talked about it and shared their concerns as a trustee board, and I shared that. So he's not in the dark on anything.
So he's already prepared to answer that question.
He is. Mm-hmm. I can't speak for him, because he's not here. So, oh, sorry, Ben, and then Bill, and then Jill. Sorry.
Sure. So, one of the better ideas might be at this point to engage somebody to run a test as quickly as possible before that date, so we go in as educated as we can about any liabilities or potential liabilities to do with that oil tank. I think that would soothe a lot of people's concerns here. So, if there's an opportunity to do that, I would suggest we get somebody on that, sooner rather than later. Do we know that the oil tank is not in use? I mean, is it something that if we take it out, we have to replace it with another system?
The oil tank is in use.
So there is a liability there. If we're going to pull it out, we have to replace that with another heating system for the building.
I would assume so, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We replaced the oil tank here a few years ago. We had a 500-gallon buried behind the church. What you do is you replace it with above-ground tanks. So we have 2 tanks out here now that are above ground. The other thing I wanted to talk about, was to answer the question on the insurance. I contacted our Sovereign, who's our insurance company, and the master policy that we have, along with all the other churches in the conference, that does not include removal and remediation, anything on the underground tank. They also indicated that there are some companies that offer policies for buried tanks. However, if they are leaking and the leaking has gotten down into the water table, typically those policies do not cover that either. So, the reason we want to pull the tank immediately, it's 25 years old. So, the longer it's in the ground, the more chance you have of it rusting through and leaking. So that would be the reason to get it out right away rather than wait a year or whatever. Yeah, I don't think it was quite that much, but it's been a while. It might be 100,000 today.
Okay, so I think Bill in the back, and then Jill.
I think we've worked on the oil tank pretty good. I think getting an inspection on it is well called for. But you also mentioned that there is a cesspool and not a septic system. Now, the state of New Jersey banned septic fields about 4 years ago, cesspools. They're now illegal to have. So if you've got to put in a septic tank field, figure 40 to 50 grand at minimum. So you might want to research that beforehand because the government cares about where that stuff goes now. And that's the state of New Jersey. So if there's any kind of sale and transfer within, if this inspection is required, and just if we're going to use the facility, you'd want to have that taken care of. So you might want to figure that in it. And the same thing with the oil tank in advance. Go ahead and have an inspection done. There's a lot of oil tank companies that will go out and do an inspection for a minimal fee. But I'd also get the septic system and get a local guy to give you a bid on what it's going to cost to eliminate the cesspool and to put in a proper system. That $95,000 could go away real quick, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. Jill. Yeah.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to change the subject from cesspools and oil tanks to opportunity. Melissa and I have been looking for a service opportunity for the women of the church, and we haven't been able to find one large enough. So I'm not worried about the thrift shop because there are a lot of women here asking for opportunities to do things, and people of different capabilities, and I think something that big and vast could meet the need. And the Moms Group has been looking for something to do on Saturdays, so I will commit at least 4 to 6 Saturdays in the next 12 months that the Moms Group will cover it. So I think we have, yes, exactly. So I don't think we have to worry about getting volunteers for the thrift store. I think it's tangible, and I think that's what something our church needs for volunteering. It's serving the community.
Okay, I see Carol's hand and Alyssa's hand.
Who pays for the inspections? We have enough, we need to paint our steeple.
Yeah, so who pays? That's a great question. So either we do or we ask them to do it, right?
We ask them to do it.
So we'll figure that out.
Good.
Alyssa, right? Okay.
Just to make sure I'm caught up, earlier on, what would we use, say everything went through? If we merged, what happen to the building for the other church? What would it be used for, et cetera?
What would it be used for? It could be used for whatever this congregation would like to use it for, barring anything against our social principles. Right? The possibilities are open. Now, the facility, as in our facility, has certain limitations to it, right? So trustees are looking at what the limitations to that facility are. So, you know, I mean, we probably can't put in an underground swimming pool in the sanctuary right away. So maybe that's a limit. But in terms of what we think is mission opportunity, we think there's a lot of possibilities. But part of what we want to do is do our due diligence in learning what the need of that community is, to see what would best meet the need. And those folks there kind of have a better understanding of it than I would. So we want to sort of officially kind of have some of those conversations. But you can understand that we can't have those type of conversations until it is public here at our church and public there tonight at their church that we want to have these conversations. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was basically curious. Would we just like not do anything with the building at all, or whatever?
That's a possibility too. You could do nothing, you could do everything, right? That's part of the fun of it. Okay, so Arthur and McCann. Oh no, the two of them sit next to each other. That's trouble. No, I'm just kidding. Arthur, go ahead.
How often do you think? How often would you say an opportunity like this presents itself to a congregation anywhere? Is this rare? I mean, does this happen every day that you get an opportunity like this?
I think it's rare. It doesn't happen every day. And even with the situation that we had at Allerton several years ago, where there was they were going through a process, and I said with the Allerton, you know, when our leadership was looking at the Allerton situation, we decided to not go with the merger, but to just encourage the congregants to join us. I remember saying that night, this won't be the last time we have conversations like this, because of the impact that we have as our congregation. But I think in terms of a congregation that has the mission impact that they do, as well as some of the fiscal assets to cover whatever type of merger challenges may incur, I think that's rare. I mean, I've never seen it in the 10 years I've been a pastor. And, you know, I think there's something special about our church. We're not the only church in Hunterdon County, but they tapped us on the shoulder. And there's a reason why they tapped us on the shoulder, because they believe we're ready for something like this, that we can sustain this, and this can continue to expand our mission beyond our four walls here at 12 Halstead Street. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's a special situation. But, you know, I've only been around at this for so long, but I don't hear many stories like this. Yeah, McCann. Did I answer your question, Arthur?
I just wanted to speak a little bit to the opportunities of mission and getting volunteers. That seems to be coming up a lot this evening. And as someone, I know it was mentioned about young people and their involvement, and as someone who is a young person and who works with youth but also young adults, and I'm also, you know, fairly involved with the young families in the church, I just kind of wanted to communicate and to say that there are a lot of exciting things happening in our family ministry, and the excitement about our church and the things that our church are doing. The excitement is growing and it's building, and people are excited to be here, and they're excited to be a part of the things that we're doing. I'll give you a quick example. Our youth are actually running their own mission trip this summer, and they're running their own local mission trip here in Hunterdon County. And so, you know, talking about the use of the building, talking about getting people to serve, this is an amazing opportunity for them, you know, for the young adults, for the young families, ample opportunities. And I know that we don't see many of the youth on Sunday mornings, and I'm working on that. However, currently our youth roster is up to 50 students. On any given Sunday night, we have anywhere from 20 to 30 students who are coming in and out. They're invested in the program, they're invested in the church. When we ask them to show up to things, they come. And so as we're talking about this new mission opportunity and all of like the infinite potential that it has, right? This location, the thrift shop, all of the things that we could be able to do. I guarantee that our youth will get behind it. Our young adult ministry is growing. They're really excited about the things that our church is doing. Sorry, Aubrey, she's probably listening to my grammar. But I really think, you know, the excitement from the young people, however you want to categorize that, however you want to categorize the generations. But I really think that the excitement is there, and I think that taking a new step and opening ourselves up to new things, that the people who are excited about it and who kind of have that energy now are going to step into it and are going to take ownership of it. So I just wanted to kind of drop that encouraging note in there. I know a lot of times, you know, we don't see youth and young adults on Sunday mornings. It's not something we talk about regularly during worship, but I do think this is an opportunity that they'll jump at.
Thank you. Yeah, so Ed and Greg.
Ooh, wow. Let's see. Annual conference every year has several church closings. Okay? I think to answer your question, do we have this go on quite frequently? I haven't been going the last 2 or 3 years to annual conference, but there is always 2 or 3 churches on the agenda that are going to be closed. Every effort is made by annual conference to revitalize those churches, giving each congregation the opportunity to use it for something else. Okay? Don't forget, they own it. Conference owns it. It's their asset. This building is their asset. So they have the final say in what goes on. But they try to revitalize every community and give you an opportunity. And the reason I keep saying that I don't want to put Drew on the spot, but I have already. But Drew, I believe, was part of the team that was sent to San Diego, California, to look into how the churches there worked with satellite locations. So he's a wealth of knowledge on how this takes place, and I can just see that festering right here. And that, you know, they've picked us as a vital congregation. We've been at the top of the list for the last 2 or 3 years of vital churches in New Jersey. You guys, we have been there. And they're trying to use us to reach out to the community, to some of these churches, try to keep them going. And yes, there is a risk, but you're not going to have to hold the poke together, you know, the pig in the sack or whatever is in there. You're not alone in this. And God, you know, pray about it, folks. You know, we got into trouble before with buying the land. We didn't count the cost. We were spending $35 million, and we couldn't get together $1 million to buy the property. I don't know what that vision was, but anyway, we're not doing that any longer. I could go on. Too many stories. I've been here too long, 37 years, and had my fingers in everything in this church. And somebody said about getting involved. Folks, get involved. Get down into the basement of this church and start getting active in these small groups. I'm preaching now a little bit. But doggone it, you don't know what's going on unless you can get to the people who are doing something about what is going on in this congregation. And you are highly respected in the community and in the Northern New Jersey Conference. That's the state of New Jersey. Beth's going to speak to that all of a sudden. Or she just wants me to shut up.
I'm just taking the mic away, Ed. Sorry.
Right. Go ahead, Greg.
So if any of you who know me know that I'm all about trying to find opportunities for the congregation to roll up your sleeves and get out there and do something, as Ed says. And, you know, somehow I've been, you know, leading this mission group for a number of years. I don't know how that happened, but so no need to clap, but thank you. But it's been fun, and so yeah. So I'm all about, like, you know, getting out of these pews and doing stuff. And I think we've provided some really great opportunities. You guys have always stepped up, and we've got people staying in our church right now. So when I think about this opportunity, I think about $40,000 a year for, 12 hours a week, right? Just think of the need that's beyond that. What if, you know, and now we don't want to go in there like guns blazing, we're going to tear this up, we're going to start, we got a better way, right? It's, again, to honor them and what they're doing and learn from them, as Pastor Michael said. But if you think about it, like if that's the kind of business that they're doing on that schedule, what's the need beyond that in that community, right? There's so much opportunity. And opportunity is a weird word when you think about need, right? But there's so much potential that we could supply. We could, you know, we could meet that need that's there in that community. I mean, my mind just goes to all sorts of places, things that we could do. It's so powerful. And I think that, you know, God calls us to respond to the need, whether it's, and I say this all the time, holding a door open for somebody, or having an opportunity to work in a thrift store for a couple hours, or going to a food bank for a couple hours, or sleeping over in a church one night. You know, it's these opportunities. And I think, you know, we're called to seize it. You know, sometimes we don't. I mean, I'm as guilty as anyone, you know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's not, I don't think that God gives us one opportunity and then that's it. Okay, you didn't do it. But this is a huge opportunity in my mind. And I'm excited to explore those opportunities and learn some things from those folks. And I just, when I heard about this, I was thrilled. So, you know, it's going to go how it's going to go, and but I hope that you know, we listen to what God is calling us to do in this instance. So, thank you.
Yeah. But before you go, Arthur, I'll say too, in my wild, imaginary, you know, brain of dreaming and vision, on my whiteboard, I have 5 locations written of where I feel like our church will have impact in Hunterdon County. So people are like, what's going on in that brain of your, Michaels? It's on my whiteboard every single day. Just come to my office and look where I think we need to go to have a greater impact in Hunterdon County. North Hunterdon is not on the list. That's how God works, because God does far beyond all that we could ask, right, from Ephesians 3. And so it's just such a funny God moment where, like, all right, Lord, I think I know what we're going to be doing as a church. I got these locations scouted out. I'm doing all my research. I'm doing all this thing. And God says, okay, Michael, how about this gift I'm going to give you right now? I want you to consider this. Well, no, I'm ready to go in all these other places. Here's this in front of you right now. I need you to deal with this. So, I mean, that's just sometimes the way that God works. Go ahead, Arthur.
I was just going to speak back to Ed's point. I mean, yeah, I do realize that it definitely does happen. And to be honest, I deal with it all the time, Ed. I mean, in business, there's, you know, churches closing. We're taking out the windows, trying to salvage things. I mean, we deal with it all the time. But not the things that I've seen in churches where they're closing or sanctuaries are shutting down or congregations are shutting down is they don't have this kind of capital. They don't have this kind of infrastructure already set up with the thrift shop and covering their own overhead. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a different opportunity. It's not just, oh, well, a church is closing and it happens all the time. Not like this. This is different. To me, it feels different. And I feel like with every step forward that we're going to take, there's some risk and there's some potential there too. And we need to measure both. And to be honest, from my viewpoint, I mean, financially and construction risk-wise, I mean, if the tank is okay, I mean, sounds like a great opportunity. But that's just me.
All right, Steve, and then is it okay if I kind of start wrapping it up after Steve? All right, I want to encourage you. We're going to keep having conversations about this. And you raised up a lot of really, really great points that we're going to do some more homework on, but we wanted to have a larger group conversation about this. And any other concerns that you might have, I want to encourage you, let me take you out for a cup of coffee. I'll let you buy me lunch. Let's get together, all right? Let's talk it out some more, and we can, you know, answer any other questions that you have. Go ahead, Steve. And again, if for some reason you didn't get a chance to share a comment or a question, you know how to reach us in the office, email us the office, call the office. You can email info@sentforothers.org or office@sentforothers.org. You know where we are. So let's keep the lines of communication open. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, I agree with Arthur. Those were some really great points that were made here. And I was just thinking about all the concerns and liabilities. So that's all knowable. So by that meeting, I think that can be worked. That's not a source of uncertainty. I mean, that's some anxiety just because we don't know now, but it's knowable. What's not knowable is the upside potential of contributing to that community by supporting them in their mission. So I think that's the balance of things. It's really doesn't really have that much anxiety with it because you can know what you're worried about and then you can deal with that before you make a decision. But what you don't know is what's the possibility of the impact you could have in that community. And I was just thinking as we were talking about the banner that's over there to your right, and what does it say? And what does that give us something to pray about for those things that we can't know, that upside potential. But we don't really have to necessarily pray about the other part, that we can have people look into it, inspect it, and wrestle with that in a very pragmatic and practical way.
Cool, thank you. So I wanted to just give us, as we kind of close tonight, some exciting info as we kind of share just a couple final pieces of our vision. We've talked a little bit about our digital ministry, our online ministry. So when I shared with you that we were going to be launching a new website in June in 2017, we talked just specifically about our app, and at that point we had 307 downloads of the app. Now, as in March 2018, we have 480 downloads of our app. And the number that we shared with you there is not just around the downloads, but around the average daily engagement. And if my math is correct, that is 380 people that are on our app every day, reading our devotionals, listening to our messages, using the Bible, just having an impact, every day, just in digital ministry, and around 380 people, I think is a pretty exciting thing. So we're going to continue to grow in the area of our digital ministry. Whoops, did I break something? Nope, there we go. Okay, so we'll have some more info as that is coming up. And essentially, one of the other stats that I'll share with you is every week there are 53 what we call unique visitors that are part of our church, that are never in this building every week. But they're a part of our worship life. That is through the live stream. So right now we're live streaming some people. Hello. But whether it's watching live stream during the worship services, or going back and watching the archive of the live stream, or listening to the full-length audio download of a message. Not, I listened to 20 seconds of Michael's message and I got bored and I turned it off. We don't count those numbers. But 53 unique visitors every week that are engaging with our content, whether it be sermon or watching the worship service. So if you think about that, that's a pretty exciting number. We hope to increase that over the next year or two, and we'll share with you some of the updates of helping us grow in our unique visitors, of not only helping people connect with the church, but stay connected as well with our ministry. And certainly out of the 380 people, we know that that's a lot of you that are reading our daily devotionals online and listening to the messages if you're not here on Sunday and other things like that. But it's also a lot more people in our community. The other thing, too, is talking about our Halstead renovations here. We talked again last June around some ideas looking at how to help this facility in accessibility, hospitality, and flexibility. Those are the three key words we kind of listened to the church about and kind of drilled down on those. And just to update on where we stand with the renovations is that we formed a building committee, because why not form a committee in the Methodist Church? That's what we do. No, but so yeah, we formed a team that reports to our trustees that specifically looks at the renovation work for this property at 12 Halstead Street. That is chaired by Bill English, who is one of our trustees, and Bill is here tonight. Thanks, Bill. And we have met a few times, and we are we're having, I think, a really good process. We've met just a couple times. Things are rolling pretty good. We actually have a next meeting on April 15th. Bill, did you want to give any update or highlight just from the building committee on how things stand?
We're addressing each one individually and kind of beating it to death and coming up with some possibilities, and I guess it'll all flow back to something like this at a later date with options on each of these things. Yeah, we did have a contractor come take a look at things, give them to see if they were all feasible. We had an architect come take a look at it, and everything that's been proposed is feasible. And they both came on separate days, and they, believe it or not, they come up with the same solutions on each of the items. So.
Good. Yeah, so I think things are coming really, really along well. So thanks to Bill and his leadership and the other folks that are on the building committee. And we'll have another town hall like this when we have something more to present to the whole church, and that'll be specifically geared towards just the renovations at 12 Halstead Street. And we'll wrap it up with this, our call in being sent for others in creating new faith communities throughout our county, having a greater impact other than just here in Clinton, but throughout the region. So where we stand on that is we have submitted a grant to the Greater New Jersey Annual Conference, and the initial response has been very favorable, but it has not been decided yet on the dollar amount. And so I can't really say what the final amount awarded will be to help us start these new faith communities, but it's not like $1,000. The grant that we wrote was $100,000 plus. So I can't share any information about some of the ideas or locations of the new faith community simply because we are waiting to see how much funding we will receive to launch it. But we're very, very close, and again, once we kind of get a word back from the conference on the type of grant that was awarded to us, then we can rework our budget and we can put our plan in place before you as a church to see how we can make a difference in the lives of people throughout Hunterdon County. So that's all I have for you tonight. It's 9 o'clock, and 5 minutes to 9, and I want to honor your time tonight. So I'm going to have a word of prayer. And I'm happy to stay and chat as well if you'd like. Or, again, email us, reach out to us. And if you have anything else you'd like to share with me tonight, please come see me before you leave. But thank you. I mean, when was the last time we had a gathering with this many people at it? Right? Like, this is cool. This is really exciting. We were taking bets, not monetary bets, as a staff. That's against our social principles. No, we were saying, how many folks should we plan on coming tonight? And we just weren't sure, and I did the old Price is Right. I said 0. You know how everyone always overbids? And I'm like, 0. Well, okay, so I didn't win. I said 75. You said 75? How many folks are here tonight? There's 14 online? Oh, cool. So yeah, just thank you for coming. And look, there's folks that have been at this church for 50 years that are in the room tonight. Is that an estimate? That's a fair estimate? How many? Nancy, you've been 50 years member? You're 50? 55 years as a member. Nancy, how many years as a member? 52 years as a member of this church. There's been folks in the room here tonight, they've been here less than 5 months. I think there's folks here tonight, they've been here less than 5 weeks. Hi. So welcome. Yeah, well, it's exciting. So, I would just encourage us tonight to continue to trust in God. We have got a lot of work to do still. I know we have some Sorry, streaming people. I got out of the shot. We have some more work to do. We have some more, questions to try and address for you to help you with this prayerful discernment time. But let me have a word of prayer. I'm going to ask for our administrative board to stay real quick, just to have a quick follow-up on tonight's meeting. Just stay for about another 5 minutes, and we'll do a quick time together as a board before everyone leaves. Let me have a word of prayer for us, okay? God, we just thank you for the gathering of the body tonight, that we each have a voice, we each have a gift, and we thank you that when you take all of us as individuals, as different parts, your scripture reminds us that some are like an eye or an ear or a hand or a foot, We all have different things that we bring to the table tonight. And we thank you that in your love, one part is not unnecessary, that the eye can't say to the ear, you're not needed, or I don't need you. We thank you that in all of our uniqueness as individuals, when we come together in your name, when we come together in your love, we are your body. So, Lord, we are asking for your grace as we pray, as we do our due diligence. As Scripture reminds us, we're counting the cost. We're doing the work. We're trying to be faithful to your calling, to your will. So, Lord, I just thank you, and I feel so encouraged in your grace and love tonight as we get to see one another and as we get to be part of the great mission that you've called us to. So, Lord, thank you, Lord, that you give us the strength we need to be for someone else, whether that would be a family member, a friend, or stranger. We thank you, Lord, that even tonight that we're able to help people as they're here in our building. We're able to partner with Family Promise. We thank you for the residents and pray a blessing for them this week as we're able to feed and to house and to help them get back on their feet. Lord, as we go forward tonight, keep us safe. Keep us focused on you, the author and the perfecter of our faith. And send us out with a great blessing as we remember that we are not sent here for ourselves, but we are sent for others. So children of God, go forward tonight with grace. Our world is waiting for you. Amen.